Welcome to another video, Purple Political Talk here. And today we're going to be looking at the 2020 Senate elections and going through and answering a big question that a lot of people may have. Right now, what are the true battleground states when it comes to the 2020 Senate elections? And realistically, what is the things that are going to be impacting the race for the Senate? So, one thing we're going to discuss right now is that, although some of these races could be competitive and close and could flip, not all races are going to be battleground states. In my opinion, a battleground state would be either a state where it would just decide who wins the general election nationwide, as well as also kind of states that could go to both sides of the aisle. So essentially, these are states that could go to either side, and they will decide the election. So, I think that there's other states that you could add to this column, but I think the most crucial are the ones on your screen. Arizona, Montana, Iowa, North Carolina, Georgia, and I forgot to add the state of Maine. So those are 7 battleground states that we're going to be looking at this point. We're going to analyze these races a little bit kind of separately in this video, and going to talk about who needs it the most and who's currently leading. So let's get started, and before we do, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to get notified when we get our latest videos. So let's go from west towards east, and starting off with the state of Arizona. So this race right now, it was a close race when it came to the United States Senate in 2018. And if this is going to be a historic time, if the Democrat Mark Kelly wins here and beats out incumbent Republican Martha McSally. So simple as this. Who needs the victory here? The Republicans. The Republican Party does not win this race. It kind of might stop all their chances they realistically do of winning the Senate. However, the Democrats are leading in by around 4 to 5 points, which, again, is a very good margin, especially since Mark Kelly isn't a politician, essentially. He was a former astronaut, and his wife was a politician. She was Congressman Gabby Giffords, who is famous or infamous for she got shot, and she was a victim of gun violence, and she's spoken up about that in the state of Arizona. So that is Mark Kelly, and I think he's currently leading, so he should not have too many issues beating out Martha McSally. However, the Republicans need it. The Republicans would benefit from all these states if they want to keep the Senate, and the Democrats would just only have to win a couple to take over the Senate, or for the Republicans to keep control. So right now this race is leaning towards the Democrats. Good for the Democratic Party, not good for the Republicans. Our next state is the state of Montana, and this state is going to be quite rather interesting. This state historically, yes, it has had Democrats as statewide officials. Incumbent Governor Steve Bullock, he is a Democrat, and he's running against incumbent Senator Steve Daines. So again, this is going to be interesting because we have a former or incumbent or former popular governor, retiring popular governor, going against a not so known incumbent senator. So this race, I want to compare it a little bit to the 2018 United States Senate race in the state of Florida. It's the same scenario essentially. However, I feel the parties are flipped. So in Florida, what we had was that Rick Scott, very popular governor, he won the nomination for the Senate, and essentially he went out and beat incumbent Democrat Bill Nelson. Essentially, what's happening here is incumbent Republican or Democratic Governor Steve Bullock is trying to beat out Steve Daines. So the races of the Steves. At this point in time, who needs it the most? Probably the Democrats. And the Republicans need it. So they both need it equally. This state is crucial to the Senate majority. However, who is leading right now? I would say Steve Bullock is leading just because of polling, all these different things that are really helping them out. And a lot of these races are going to have a common theme. Who needs it? Probably the other party. But in this case, it's kind of equal on how much both they need it. Iowa is the same thing, but I feel like Iowa is a state that has been a state that usually the Democrats haven't focused too much on. And when we hear about the big races for the Democrats, we think Montana, Arizona, we thought of Kansas, we thought of North Carolina to Georgia. But Iowa, I feel at this point, is a state that Democrats would benefit from, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if they lose. Republicans really do need it, though. They lose Joni Ernst. that's pretty much logs their path to the United States Senate majority. So, who's leading here? It's Joni Ernst. And, I mean, Teresa Greenfield, she is a very inspiring candidate. She can get the voters out. However, I mean, Joni Ernst does have her base in Iowa with rural voters and with some of the more suburban white voters. And those voters are going to vote for Joni Ernst. Well, Teresa Greenfield might take a big part of the African-American vote, and she might take some of the suburban vote. However, I mean, Joni Ernst will probably narrowly push it out here. So, when it comes to these key battleground states, we're going to see some common themes. One, Democrats might take some states that the Republicans are expected to win. And two, the Republican Party needs to win a lot more than they are expected to even retain control of the Senate. So, I also wanted to mention that, of course, we're going to see races that are flipping, like Colorado and Alabama. But those races, we know they're probably going to flip, so I did not mention them in this video because we're just talking about battleground states. And, I mean, those states, not that they're not battlegrounds, I mean, it's just that they're pretty decided at this point. So, going back to Iowa, I mean, Joni Ernst is probably going to win there. Going on to the two Senate races in Georgia. So, I'm going to say this right off the bat. One, GOP members are winning. Both, whether it be Loeffler or Collins in the special, or Perdue in the regular. However, I mean, the Democrats do have, they could go with turnout from the general election and overperform expectations. One race, we have Jon Ossoff, former candidate for U.S. House. I mean, he was very popular in the district that he ran. And honestly, it's not looking too horrible for him. However, he's going against David Perdue. I think David Perdue is easily going to attract those Georgia voters that are more to the rural, more establishment. So that shouldn't be a problem for David Perdue. I mean, where does Jon Ossoff need to do very well? Atlanta suburbs. Jon Ossoff does extremely well in the Atlanta suburbs, and then some of the other smaller cities like Macon, for example, Savannah. Take those cities by a lot, and then the belt of Democratic towns, right, like this part of the state. I think Jon Ossoff would do pretty good. However, I mean, David Perdue is leading. When it comes to the special election, that's a little bit flip-flop because since it's a jungle primary, we do not know who's going to go out of the primaries. Latest polls do show that two Republicans will go out of the primary, and that really does help. So we have incumbent Senator Kelly Loeffler, who replaced Johnny Isakson, and we have current incumbent House member Doug Collins, all fighting for the seat. So I mean, essentially in the polls, I mean, for the last couple of months, in that race in the polling, I mean, Doug Collins was leading. However, I mean, at this point, Kelly Loeffler has taken somewhat of the lead in the polls, and we saw her go very high in polling. So, I mean, at this point in time, the Democrats didn't run too many strong candidates in this race. However, as we get closer and we get to there's more excitement around the election, we could see that kind of turn and happen. So that's the state of Georgia. And North Carolina, I mean, who needs this? The Republicans need this. If they lose North Carolina, again, very hard for them to win. However, I mean, it's not looking too good for them as incumbent State House Representatives member Kyle Cunningham is currently leading in this race, not only in the polls, but in fundraising as well. A lot of the common themes, again, Democrats are raising a lot of money as of lately, especially in these lower races. I mean, in these lower races in the House, Senate, these races are strongly being dominated by Democrats because they have a lot more of disposable income when it comes to fundraising and things like that. And since the RNC also has to be focusing on a lot more races than the Democrats do, I mean, the Democrats do have an advantage. So Cal Cunningham, at this point, realistically, he's leading in polls by around 3 to 5%. Tom Tillis is not that popular, to say the least. And I mean, essentially, the Democrats are leading a lot of the South. So, I mean, at this point in time, should the Republican Party be worried? I mean, without the state of North Carolina? Probably. I mean, each state of the states that the Republican Party loses is one less shot at the United States Senate. And I mean, with them, pretty much, if you could just consider that Colorado and Alabama they pretty much cancel themselves out. Democrats realistically only have to win three seats if Joe Biden wins the presidency, and 4 if he does not. So, for the Democratic Party, I think it would have been in the best interest for them to have Chris Kobach win in Kansas in the GOP primary, so Barbara Blair could have easily had that seat. However, That's not going to happen. So Democrats are currently rethinking their strategy, and we're gonna see this in this map. I mean, essentially, where Democrats could have a 52-seat majority, which leaves some room for error. Now that's not going to happen. And in a state like North Carolina, Democrats are going to have to rely on states like North Carolina, Arizona, and Montana to flip if they do want a chance of winning the Senate elections. So those are the states. And now the last state is the state of Maine. Republicans loses, I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world. However, if they lose North Carolina, they lose Montana, they lose Arizona, they lose Maine, that's going to be a problem. Sarah Gideon is leading here by many different forms. You could say polling data, she's leading by around 2 to 3 points. Finances, she's outrated Susan Collins. Susan Collins is not that popular, to say the least, again. So, I mean, at this point, Sarah Gideon has an easy race in the state of Maine. I mean, one common thing we're seeing, some of these states are crucial for the majority for the other one, for the Democrats, and losing the majority. I mean, at this point, losing the majority is not in the cards for the Republican parties. They can't have that happen. However, every single day, it looks more and more likely that a Democratic majority could even happen. So, what are we seeing along this map? Republicans are holding on to races where they have a lot of rural vote, more establishment vote, as they're running more establishment candidates. They're not running too many super pro-Trump candidates, which might help them. And then when it comes to the sides of the Democrats, I mean, they're running a little bit more moderated candidates. I mean, what are we seeing? Mark Riley's pretty moderate. C. Bullock is pretty moderate. Cal Cunningham is moderate, leaning more to the left. And so is Sarah Gideon. So, generally speaking, that's some of the strategies we're seeing, and they're probably paying off. Democrats are looking like they will pick up a lot of seats, and Republicans won't be in the fight to pick up seats, but rather to retain them. So that's something interesting to watch, and I know that as we get closer to Election Day, we're going to see a lot of things change. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please give it a huge thumbs up. Like and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you get notified when I post my next video. Hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye.